so long you don't even want to read it.
Well, you can just give us your
version. But the bottom line, you boil it down to the bone, and it ties into the question that you asked Ron was, why do they do it? It's the challenge. It's that individual accomplishment. It's that team accomplishment. You know, it's you and that animal. It's you and the horse, you and the bull, you and the steer. But that brings back that adrenaline rush. And adrenaline rush is probably why most of us ever joined in the first place and stay there. It's just massive, that feeling of, hey, I'm back with a team. We're in uniform. We got boots. We got hats.
You look sharp
We got
today.
matching clothes. That's that feel. You feel like you belong there. And you're challenged. You're winning sometimes. You're losing sometimes. But the good thing is when it's tight family, you give your money away. You don't feel so bad because, you know, probably if he beats me in the bronc ride, he's probably going to buy me a Coors Light anyway, so I'll get some of my money back.
And real quick, I think rodeo is the only sport that you find where a cowboy will go out of his way to help another cowboy that's competing against him. I know I've seen cowboys show up at a rodeo that maybe their rigging bag or whatever has been lost, and here, borrow my bull rope. Well, here, you can use my shaps. Well, okay, what do you need here? What do you need there? And they completely outfit this cowboy so that he can ride and compete against them. Mm-hmm. And that's the family of rodeo.
Absolutely.
And you don't see that in any other sport. And so many of our sports today are team sports. And like James said, rodeo is an individual sport. You don't have to, the kids nowadays that's growing up, you know, they choose up teams. I was always the last one to get chose. I was a little bitty, skinny, undersized guy. But in rodeo, nobody's choosing teams. You choose yourself, and you go up there, and you get prepared, and you get physically ready, and that's it. It's you competing against the animal. You're not competing. Me and James, if we rode bulls together, I wouldn't be competing against James.
Right.
I'd be competing against the bull. Mm-hmm. I might be using James's rope. I don't know.
you know something I think too. I think that's part of the appeal of rodeo, even over in Europe, is that it's part of the American West. And it's our roots, it's where we came up from, and, romancing the West, and there's a lot to do with that. And, Bill has brought so much to the table here with She's Gone Country, and that is Becky and I have been able to get a living history lesson about our military and their involvement. And I know military rodeo is such an important part of who you are, but I also know that once you are no longer active military, there are a whole lot of other things that come into play. And I know, Bill, I know you and Gina are working on things. James, I know, has stuff going on. And it's all about awareness for our veterans and helping them come back and live each day of their life to the fullest here back at home.
Well, and I think that it leads into, Bill and Gina, what you are working on together, because Gina, that you are typically not, you're not military, but you have a heart for military, and you have seen some of your own struggles that are no different than someone dealing with when they come back from the military. So we are interested to hear about your story. So share with us how you and James met, or Bill met, and what you guys are working on together.
Well, we actually met on Facebook, and he wrote an article on me and did some photographs, and then ended up coming to our ranch in Stephenville, Texas, and saw how we raise buck and bulls and what our way of life is, which is totally different than city life. But without the military, we wouldn't have what we have at our house, that how we live every day. It's what gives us our freedom and our chance to get up and feed buck and bulls every morning, and 10 head of horses every morning, and go to jackpots at night, and go to PBRs on the weekend, and PRCA rodeos on the weekends, and it all relates back to military. And the one who started it all for me was Kent Cox, and he struggled with numerous brain injuries and depression. And through that, I lost him in 2014. So I am still continuing on with the business and buck and bulls, and it's what he struggled with all of the brain issues that he had were from concussions, and it relates back to what these military guys go through when they come home. And it was the chore of getting up and feeding every morning and being responsible for those animals' lives that still gave him a purpose to continue his life for as long as he did, and got him out of bed every morning when he was depressed and didn't want to get up and couldn't find a reason to live. He knew he had to get up and go feed, or those bulls wouldn't live. So it brings a different perspective to the table for those guys that are coming back from war and trying to figure out where their place is, you know, in the world today. And it's the same thing as even when the bull riders transition from their career in riding bulls, what are they going to do when their career's over? I mean, these guys can only ride so long in their life before their bodies give out and they can't continue on. If that's all they've known, they lose their identity when they retire. What do they do after that? So in Kent's job, he immediately transitioned from that to raising bucking bulls, and that's how he got into the bucking bull business and how Kent Cox Bucking Bull started. He was transitioning from his riding career to still being competitive in the rodeo arena, and that was raising bucking bulls. So it's from those perspectives, even though I'm not military, I understand what the guys are going through, and just being responsible for feeding the bulls and then watching them grow from babies to troubadour and bushwhacker that we've had on our property, it gives you a sense of accomplishment that you can do something else with your life.
And I'd like to hit on that. What brought my attention to Gina a couple years ago when I did a magazine article on her was I seen a lot of fight in her also, and the understanding that if you really want to succeed, and James and Ronnie and them will vouch too, that the military industry is not just something for these guys to do, but it helps the guys that have issues as well. Like Gina was just saying, it gives them a purpose. I heard her story, wrote the magazine articles when I really started getting interested in. James and I have been working on different programs for the veterans. Some of them want to get into the rodeo, but they don't want to be riders. They want to be involved in other stuff. So we're looking at different programs. And so Gina's actually my first one outside of a person competing and stuff that I'll be working with veterans, getting them into the rodeo industry. But I would like her to highlight a little more on her story too, because to me, this woman is just as impressive as you can get when you're talking about somebody that doesn't know what quit means, that has a desire to continue on. Can you give us a little bit of your background on your accident and stuff?
Yeah, I lose track of the years now. It was 11 or 12 years ago. I had a car wreck and I lost my left arm. So this is a mechanical prosthetic, a fake arm. And I've rodeoed my entire life and run barrels and had livestock. And at that point, I had to figure out what I was going to do. Was I going to go to city life and forget my way of life that I've grown up with and forget competing and forget being in the rodeo arena because I lost my arm? Or was I going to get up and go on and continue to do my passion? And I am still running barrels today, and now I'm slowing down on the bucking bull business a little bit. We still have 40 head of bucking bulls and over 100 head of cows, but I am gearing more towards running barrels. And it's been a fight. I mean, I've run my whole life with two hands, so I've had to get kind of ingenious on how I'm going to continue to run my barrels with two hands. And, you know, it's about thinking about outside the box and figuring out how to make it work rather than just giving up. And I got with a couple of engineers, and we have figured out to put a metal plate on my reins, and I run with a rare earth magnet that I put around my hand. So I really still have two hands running barrels, and back to competing full force and trying to get my horse geared where we can actually hit rodeos again. So that's, you know, that's the drive to not give up. There are mornings I wake up, I hurt, I'm tired, I'm fighting pain all day, but at the end of the day, I still have to go out there and feed 40 head of bulls. And I still have to go get on my horse and exercise and ride if I'm going to keep him on the road and try to be successful with it. So I guess that's where the fight comes from, is you don't give up when you've got your end goal. And no matter how hard it is, you keep pushing through it.
James, I know you had a question.
So she basically, you know, the mission statements. Mission statements are hard. One or two words is great. It's great on an application, but at the end of the day, she just described our purpose. Like, totally described, because it is. Things happen.
Yep.
Things happen in our life, whether we cause them or don't cause them. What we do next is what's going to define us. And I think that a lot of our cowboys and cowgirls, not everybody's still serving. We have veterans, be it a 2-year, 4-year, 20, 30-year veteran. But what I find is that network, that ability to go, hey, here was my bull ride today. What do you think? And I think, well, you sat on a bull for a second, but you sat good to start. Or, hey, this was my bronc ride today. That was great, but where were you looking? Where were your toes? What are you doing? So we critique each other, we communicate with each other, and we try to pass that strength on. And I think the offer to bring us in and have some warriors go through that program, purpose in life is a life of purpose. So you give purpose, you give mission. When you give mission, you give the ability to accomplish, a requirement to communicate. It's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
One of the things that I think is important to address and to help people understand is, even though you're over and you're serving and you're on your duties, however many tours you are on and so forth, when someone in the military comes home, they may have a family to come home to, but they also have a loss of family, and that reconnecting. And if you guys would, please explain for a few minutes what that is all about, so that those that maybe aren't in military understand the process and the transition coming home.
My experience with it is there's always a disconnect. It's they've gone from a comfort zone to a very discomfortable zone, which becomes a comfort zone again, and then coming home becomes uncomfortable. The cycle swaps ends, and you see them come home and there's a challenge to communicate. They have a hard time talking to the spouse or the children, or they either under-discipline or over-discipline. There's just so many things, and the problem is they're thinking more about things that their family doesn't. The family cares, but the family just wants them to get back at it.
Be home.
Be home.
To them, home
you're
to
home,
them.
Live home. And what we see with what I'm seeing with PAFRA is the groups of people, once they come together, they start to share those same stories, and they realize it's okay that I've got some issues. It's okay that I'm not what everybody thinks normal is. We try to explain that you're normal, that's your new normal. It's only natural and only normal to go through that type of trauma and not be the same person you were. And it doesn't matter what the trauma is. It can be combat, it could be car accident, it could be any one of a million things. But you know, I had a young man at a bear hunt with us, and you know, we hunt all through the day, and then we're done at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're sitting around the campfire, and this young kid who had come in straight out of high school had been shot through and through and healed up. Things were healed up and done, but basically the Army said, thank you, you're broken, we can't use you. So as he sat around the fire with all of the old timers, and I won't say old timers, but he sat around with everyone else who had been around, and he's listening, he's sort of taking it all in and absorbing it. And at the end of it, he said, hey, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, buddy. So we pulled to the side, and he goes, you know, I thought I was all screwed up. He said, you guys are all screwed up too. I must be okay. I said, yeah, you're right on the money, man. We're all screwed up together.
Well, you know, James, that kind of leads into, I know that, you know, you're the director of operation for Alaska's Healing Hearts, and that's working with the battle wounded and battle weary, and that's taking it. I know Bill does a lot of work in Alaska with the Healing Hearts as well. Can you give our audience a sense of exactly what it is that you do up there to help our veterans?
Sure. So Alaska's Healing Hearts was founded to sort of fill a void that didn't exist. We have, you know, in the state of Alaska, every month, 268 military members actually get out. We've got that many up there. So that number is pretty unsurmountable. So we had a lot of folks that were in medical transitioning and healing and returning back forth. And what we thought was, you know, there's other organizations out there too, but pound for pound on the dollar, it's cheaper to fund it local and take care of it local than to ask people all over the world to fund us. So we began with a simple bear hunt. We took 6 guys out, 6 ladies out. Everybody got to kill a bear. But it wasn't so much about shooting the bears as it was that rebuilding that confidence. We decided we could expand. So now we're doing everything from hiking to painting to wildlife photography with Bill. Bill's hosted warriors down there, and they've done and they've learned, kids who can use an iPhone, but they learned real equipment and took great photographs. We basically do whatever those service members wish to do that's going to help them start the path to healing or continue to heal, or to give us that ability to make that phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, the text, and go, hey, I'm not sure I can take this. We've developed that network. And again, as we were talking about, one of the things that I always like to tell the troops that we take out is, you know, one of these days I want to meet your grandchild. And I've had them say, well, I might not make it that long. Well, no, you have to, because I have to see your grandchild. You have to be here. But what we do, locally funded, we hunt, fish, 4-wheel, snow machine. Gosh, I don't know. What else do we do? Ski, ice fish, like equine programs. I mean, it's literally the inmates running the prison. We ask them, what do you want to do? And we go make it happen. So we're very, very fortunate.
I just want to say something real quick before we close out. Alaska Healing Hearts has to be one of the best organizations I've ever met. James and them have got so much opportunity for people up there. And I have to honestly say, my experiences with veterans, my most memorable one was with them a couple years ago when we went in on a bear hunt with a guy in a wheelchair on tracks. And he worked his way all the way into the bear camp. We got him in there, or we flipped the blind over him. I got in the blind. I was in the blind with this guy for 6 hours. No bear, but I tell you what, it made this guy's day. This guy had no negative attitudes about being in a wheelchair or anything. He was so pumped at the end of that day when we went back out. I mean, it just, that was my best experience I've ever had with a veteran.
Well, we sure appreciate everything that you guys do. Did you?
Just real quick, I'd just like for all the veterans out there to know that PAFRA, the Professional Armed Forces Rodeo Association, is open to them.
How do you
And
find PAFRA?
That's what I'm going to let James answer that, and how to get a hold of them. And you're welcome to join PAFRA, and we will get in contact with you and tell you where and how and what to do.
And we'll put some information out on our website as well on Facebook. But go ahead.
It's real simple. It's Rodeo PAFRA.
Rodeo PAFRA.
Rodeo PAFRA. Google it. It'll come up. All the forms, documents of their qualifications, everything, and we'll share with you guys. And again,
Perfect.
open to all veterans and military currently serving, and we allow the spouses and the children under the age of 18 to participate with us as well.